Welcome to Defense in Depth. In this video, we are going to discuss what Defense in Depth is, what it means, and the layers involved in Defense in Depth and how to apply it. So what is Defense in Depth? It is a layered approach to security, and what you want to do is use multiple products that take care of different sections of security so that you have multiple layers of security for someone to penetrate in order to cause havoc in your system. So you catch any sort of security threat that may occur coming into your organization. And that's usually done through the use of a firewall, an intrusion prevention system, antivirus software. Maybe it's network-based antivirus software and host-based antivirus software. Maybe it's network-based IPS and host-based IPS. Maybe it's multiple firewall vendors, so that if there's something that is caught by an ASA but not caught by Palo Alto or vice versa, you have multiple ones so that you have the best of both vendors. That's a possibility as well. The general idea being that there's a layered approach to your security. Maybe you have access lists also in place on your router right behind all of these security devices. That's another layer. It could be anything like that. As I mentioned, it can be different brands, like I said with firewalls. So it could be Cisco ASAs and Palo Altos. It could be Semantic Antivirus and Avast. It could be anything like that. Maybe even multiple brands for your infrastructure equipment, so that if there's an issue in the firmware, it doesn't affect everything. Maybe it only affects some of your infrastructure, not all of your infrastructure. That could be an argument for having a mixed environment. For all of these products and all of these layers, you want to have monitoring. You have to make sure everything's running smoothly and working correctly, or else the layers really don't mean anything, do they? So you need to have an appropriate monitoring system in place to ensure that your layered infrastructure is actually blocking when it's supposed to be blocking. Maybe with the firewalls, you're using firepower and you're ensuring that everything is being captured and analyzed correctly. Maybe with antivirus, you have an antivirus portal that you're looking at, making sure that everything that is being caught by antivirus is being quarantined and reviewed and cleaned up. So as I mentioned, it's a layered approach, and it's not just from a technical perspective of having different types of hardware. It's layers within the organization as well. So it's security policies. What is your training for your employees? So maybe your employees need to go through anti-phishing training or something like that. Maybe they need some review as to what the security policies actually are. Are they allowed to open attachments? Are they allowed to send out emails with documents? Or what is it that they are restricted from doing? You need to make sure people are trained and understand what those policies are. From a physical standpoint as well, if you have all this great technology that's blocking all the inbound attacks from the outside world on the internet, but if you have no locks on any of your doors and someone can just walk into the main lobby to make a left and go straight into your data center, well, that's not very secure. So you want to make sure you have locks not only on the doors but also on your racks. Have cameras. Make sure that there's a monitoring system involved with those locks. Rather than having a key, maybe it's better to have an RFID tag system or a keypad system so that you can track who is accessing at what times and you know what that person is doing. The network side of things, like I mentioned with the hardware, firewalls, IPS, things like that. The host security, as I mentioned, antivirus, also potentially host-based IPS. And application security. Not just all of the things that we can prevent from a building and a technical perspective in the network, but if you're creating applications or vetting software that's been produced by a vendor, how are they programming the software? If you are aware of it or if you have control over it, making sure that they use the best practices, making sure that they do not implement something that is inherently insecure. If maybe even something as implementing what seems like a good idea, maybe in your software you are developing a secure connection method and you decide to use SSL. But that may not be a great idea because that's now been supplanted by TLS. So ensuring that the programmers understand what they need to be doing and what the latest security concerns are and the best ways to implement that, that's also something that has to be concerned about. And finally, encryption. The data that is at rest hopefully is encrypted in some way, especially if it's sensitive. So if it's HIPAA data or PCI data or social security numbers or any other HR documents, that stuff should be encrypted at rest. Also in transit, as I mentioned with SSL and TLS, or with VPNs, you need to make sure that any sort of data that's transiting to somewhere, whether it's out on the web, whether it's over a connection to a different location, make sure those connections are encrypted, make sure the data is encrypted, make sure the storage is encrypted. You have to prevent people from getting into that data. If they get past your different layers of security and get onto your network, you have to make it difficult for them to get to the data as well. So what this does is it helps you reduce your firefighting, running around putting out problems and solving things, by implementing defense in depth practices. So this allows you to be proactive rather than reactive. If you can implement all these different layers and do them correctly and make sure that you have management backing, then you can hopefully alleviate some of those everyday issues and chasing down people that have ransomware installed on their systems or antivirus pop-ups and all sorts of stuff. If you can lock that down and take care of it, then you can move on to being a proactive engineer. So in this video we discussed defense in depth, what it is, and the various layers involved in it, including physical and organizational structure.